this song as well, 1,000 Years. So listen up right now. Here it is on ICRT. ICRT FM 100. I'm Joseph Lin, and with me on the air right now. And what a pleasure to meet her in person. And she's just as beautiful as she looks in video and on picture. And she's having her concert tonight, of course. Please welcome to the show. It's Christina Perri.
Hello.
You're on ICRT. There's a lot to talk about here. I mean, music, your interest, and your future and whatnot. But let's go back to that. I mean, go back to how you started with music. And I know you grew up in Philly area.
Yes.
There's a lot of music over there, abundance of it. I mean, we're talking about artists like Boyz II Men, Chubby Checker, who else? The Roots.
Yep.
Even Pink is from.
Yeah, she's actually from closer to where I grew up, like the suburb. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, growing up, what does that music? What kind of influence did it have on you?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a very Italian house. My dad is from Italy, so we had like a serious Italian vibe going on in my house. We'd listen to Dean Martin, Connie Francis, Frank Sinatra, Pavarotti. That was more my upbringing.
I see.
But there's a huge Italian-American culture in Philadelphia, so I was constantly surrounded by music. My big brother's a musician, really great at guitar, and so there was always music in my house. Also, being from Philly, there were always shows. I mean, we were always going to shows, always going to the theater, always, so just you can feel there's a whole jazz vibe too in Philadelphia that's really big, blues and jazz. So I feel really lucky that I was surrounded by it growing up, and so as soon as I wanted to do it, it was right there. It was available to me.
Do you remember what was the first concert you ever went to?
Yeah, it was actually Criss Cross.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Jump.
Yeah, and I wore my pants backwards in case you
Oh my
wondering.
goodness.
It was at the 76ers basketball game.
Okay.
And
yes,
at the halftime.
Yes.
So I was about 7, I think. But then
You know what? I might even remember that game for some reason.
Really? Well, it was. I mean, they had a full-on concert in the middle of the game.
Right.
But then my first real concert that I took myself to, that I saved up my babysitting money and I bought a ticket, was NSYNC.
Was NSYNC.
Yeah.
Well, that gets right into my one of my questions is like, what kind of guilty pleasures in music did you have growing up? Something that would surprise us that is kind of a deviation from what you're doing right now.
Okay, well, definitely show tunes. I'm obsessed with musical theater.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did musical theater from 8 years old to about 18. And all like the Sound of Music and Fiddler on the Roof and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I mean, all that like Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff is my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about your brother then. I mean, growing up, did he dictate what kind of music? I mean, because he got into music a little bit earlier than you did, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and
he's
as a big
2 years.
brother, he's got some. This? Okay.
Every single thing my brother did, I wanted to do too. I was his little me too our whole lives. So when he got into actually, funny enough, the only thing that we didn't have in common was heavy metal music. So during the time, there was 1 year where we weren't friends. I was 13 and he was 15, and he listened to Pantera and I listened to Little Kim and Mace and Puff Daddy. That was like the only year that we weren't really friends. But then we both fell in love with Guns N' Roses, and then we became best friends again. So if there's a timeline of us, there's like one little spot where we didn't hang out due to music, which is really funny. But we also grew up loving the Beatles. So we related the most on a musical level. And then everyone thinks he taught me how to play guitar, but I actually taught myself how to play guitar because he had left. He went on tour when he was 16, and I missed hearing music in the house, so I picked up one of his guitars and I taught myself how to play.
Wow, that's an amazing story, actually. That you're actually more into hip hop. He was a metalhead.
Yeah,
and that's
just
the
for a
difference,
year,
right?
though.
That's just for that little period of time. Yeah. Everyone goes through that,
Of course. Yeah.
Now let's talk about your music. A lot of the song titles you have are just body parts. About the head, the heart.
Yeah.
Would you have gotten to anatomy or something? Or, I mean, what would you have done if you didn't do music?
It's so funny you say it that way because my second favorite thing in life, like my other biggest passion, are the vocal cords and the biology and the science of them.
Oh, you do?
So like the larynx, every
Analyze
textbooks, when I'm in Boston, my ENT is in Boston, and he actually lets me wear goggles and like shadow him at his office while I'm there. Like I'm very nerdily interested in all the anatomy of the throat. So that's really strange. I never put those two together. But I mean, honestly, I didn't have a plan B, so I didn't really plan on being a speech pathologist, but I've only since becoming a singer have fallen in love with that part. So I still almost see myself doing that in the future when I'm like a mom, but also you know, I didn't have a college education. Like, I really, really was hoping for this music thing to work out, and thank God it did.
But apparently you're pretty fascinated by, you know, the human anatomy and also human
Voices.
behavior and everything, psychology
Oh, yeah.
behind it and all that, right?
Totally.
You're a human person.
Yes, I am a human person.
How about 1,000 Years? I mean, of course, that song opened up a whole new demographics for you, I suppose, and you know, coupled with a huge franchise, Twilight. How did you conceive the song? I mean, it was really based on the movie, correct?
Yes. So what happened was I had been on tour for about 2 years, and I found out that Atlantic Records put out those soundtracks while I was in their offices because I could see the plaques on the walls, and I made such a fuss over the fact that they did that because that was my favorite. They were my favorite books and movies at the time, and so when they were making the 4th movie and soundtrack, they, you know, called me up and said, would you want to see the movie early and write a song for the wedding scene?
Okay.
And so I freaked out. I mean, like, I definitely didn't play it cool. Like, I'm such a fan
that
I sat in the front row and I cried the whole screening. But it was really funny because the movie was so not finished. Like, so they still had like men holding masks as wolves and like green screens and stuff.
Yes.
But I didn't care. I loved it so much, and I went straight home after I saw the film, and I wrote 1,000 Years with my friend David Hodges, who I brought to the screening because he's my favorite songwriter to write songs with. And so he and I just sat down and we tried to write the prettiest, most romantic wedding song, which is why it's a waltz. I mean, funny enough, they didn't use it for the wedding, but they ended up using it as a single, and then it became, you know, the swan song of the whole saga in the last 6 minutes of the final film. And I mean, way beyond my dream. My dream was like, oh, maybe I can have a song, and then it was just like the song. I couldn't believe what happened, and really catapulted me to a global level, which I'm very, very grateful for.
Indeed. In fact, you know, we do what's called call-outs on our station, and we surprise people with wedding proposals and stuff like that, and your song is the most requested for that purpose, for sure.
Well, you know what's really funny? As a songwriter, it really makes me happy that people subconsciously realize that it's a wedding song. Because I wrote, you know, because I wrote it for a wedding, even though it wasn't that visually for people, but sonically people just feel that it's a romantic wedding song because it's a waltz. That's the trick.
But being married for 1,000 years, that could be a bit scary, though, right?
Yeah, probably difficult.
Probably very difficult. But let me ask you this, because a lot of musicians, they tend to get tired of their hit single, if you will. And there's going to be a point in time. Maybe you have already hit that point. Do you see that, or?
No, but here's my optimistic viewpoint.
Okay.
I've only been doing this for, you know, as long as I have, which is not very long in the scheme of life. But Jar of Hearts is the song I'm most grateful for, truly, in my soul, because I wouldn't be here without it. So every time I play that song, it's such a feeling of gratitude that comes over me. It's also still very fresh. The way I sing it is a little bit different than the record, and so you know, it doesn't feel old to me yet. And then 1,000 Years again was like just came in and saved the day, and you know, kind of blew up my whole career, and so that also has a sense of gratitude, and then to see people smiling and singing along, it's different in every city, you know, it keeps it fresh for me. So I understand that concept, and maybe in 25 years I'll have a different answer for you, but as of right now, I'm just too grateful.
Yeah, of course. I gotta tell you, I'm not a Twilight series fan, but your song made it more relevant for me to play and talk about Twilight on the air, so thank you.
Oh yeah, of course.
Now this tour you're on, of course, the Head or Heart tour, this is your second album too.
Yes.
Before that, you had your Love Strong tour, and that was, and if I made a mistake here, I'm sorry, that was more of a North American tour? I mean, did you go around the world for that first album?
I did. I didn't come here. I did go to Southeast Asia.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, in 2012. I basically just like Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur and Australia, and I hit a couple places. But for sure, this second album, we've been going to more places than the first.
Right, but this certainly is one of the lengthiest world tours that you've been on, right?
Yeah, this is year 2. We toured for 11 months last year, and now we're on the first, you know, leg of this year, and it's honestly, you know, I'm lucky to continue to do this.
Right.
Like, I don't feel like, oh no, we have to go do all this. It's like, oh wow, I'm invited to these places. Like, you know, I'm very happy about that. So I will be touring the whole rest of the year if I'm lucky.
Well, being on this side of the world for so many days and weeks now, I mean, do you still keep in touch with everyone back in the U.S.?
Yeah, I FaceTime. Yeah, I'm madly in love with my little niece who's 8 months old, and so I've been FaceTiming with them because I don't want to miss 1 minute of her growing.
Okay.
I also FaceTime with my parents the other day. Thank God for FaceTime and for Skype and for Facebook and Twitter and all those things that I can feel still very connected. Although we are, you know, so far ahead of them that it is kind of cool that they're. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's been a little tricky, but I figured it out.
You're friends with Jason Mraz, Ed Sheeran. They're all very well received here in Taiwan, in Asia, in the world for that matter, but definitely here. Have they given you any tips about, you know, touring around Asia or Taiwan in particular? Because Jason Mraz was here, I think, 3 or 4 times already.
Oh, yeah.
At award shows and everything, you know. So.
Well, I didn't get any tips from them. I should have reached out. But I do, just in life, I look up to both of them. And so whenever, I was just texting with Ed yesterday. He and I keep sending each other pictures because he's sort of following me. He's like coming to all these places that I've just gone to. So I've been, you know, laughing. He went in his hotel yesterday and his hotel room was full of pictures of him. And I was like, that's so cool. I want my hotel room filled with pictures of you. And he was like, well, I want mine filled with pictures of you. And so we said that we were going to try to work that out with our teams. But anyway, they're just lovely people to have in my life. I feel, you know, just lucky to be friends with them.
Right. For the concert tonight, any surprises, any covers you're going to do, if you're willing to share them?
Well, I should keep it secret.
Okay.
We do 3 little covers that we have, because we've been playing this show you know, all last year, and I try to keep it fresh. So we've added something brand new for this tour in particular, and you know, as surprises go, we kind of keep it. It's going to be a surprise to the audience because it's our first show ever here. But for us, you know, there are some moments that we've added just for this tour.
Well, I'll find out in a few hours.
You will.
And I'll share it with my listeners, I guess.
Oh, good.
The next day. How about for this whole new year? I mean, you just happened to be here during Chinese New Year. This is still kind of, you know, even though we're still working right now, but this is the holiday season. It's a New Year 2015. What's the outlook for you for this whole year? Musically, personally? I mean, getting married, buying a house, music, that type of thing.
I love all those things.
What are you planning to do?
Well, it's really interesting. Last year, my whole outlook was to just kind of stick my head down and just work and just you know, tour every day and do all these things that I had on a list. And then for this year, it's the first time I really don't have a list. I just want to be very present. So that might sound really cheesy, but it's actually been working. 2015 has been the most wonderful I've felt inside. So I feel like I'm enjoying what I do for a living for the first time. I feel like I'm happy where I'm at in my life. I'm comfortable at 28 and a half. I'm really just in a good place, and so I just want to see that keep happening for 2015. So really it's like I took away expectations and everything is seemingly like a surprise.
I like how you're counting your half years as well. 28 and a half.
I am 28 and a half.
Okay. Great. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
I'm sure people have taught you how to say Happy New Year in Chinese.
No, you can teach me right now.
Are you serious? Okay, very easy. 新年快乐.
That is not easy. Okay.
Let's do it again. 新年快乐.
快乐.
快乐 means happy.
Okay. 新年快乐.
There it is.
Boom.
Yes. And this is the year of the goat. You know, we have Chinese zodiacs.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to remember the goat. It's yang.
Yang.
Which sounds like young.
Okay.
So stay young, stay beautiful for the year of the young.
Awesome.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy your concert tonight. A pleasure to have you on ICRT.
I hope you enjoy it too.
And we'll see you around when you come back again next time, you know?
Thank you.
For sure.
Thanks
come
a
to
lot.
our station.
Okay.
All right. Christina Perri right here on ICRT FM 100.